Hi everybody, it's Miss Austin, and I'm going to pick up where Miss Eisencraft left off, taking what we've been doing for the last 3 weeks or so and putting it all together on what's called the unit circle. The unit circle is a way for us to conceptualize and hopefully memorize the exact trig values going around the circle in angles and or radians. So let's see how this all comes together. So you recall from Miss Eisencraft's video, she went over the triangles with you, special right triangle rules. So let's start with this one right here. You've got a 30, 60, 90, and we're assuming that the hypotenuse is 1. And so you found that the legs were the square root of 3 over 2 and a half. So now I'm going to take this triangle and I'm going to put it right here on the unit circle. You can do this with me, or you could play it back. So I'm actually going to draw that triangle. There it is. I'm going to use the same color to kind of, and I recommend using colors if you have some. Okay. So on this actual template, the degree goes up here. So this is 30 degrees, which is right here. Okay. So this right here is a coordinate. So imagine you're a little ant right here. How would you describe how to get up to this point right here? You would walk over this length, which is the square root of 3 over 2, and then you would walk up a half. That's those lengths that you found with Miss Eisencraft, right? Because on the unit circle, the radius is always 1, so the hypotenuse is 1. Okay? Now, let's look at the 45, 45. There's that 45, 45, 90 triangle. We're assuming the hypotenuse is 1. She worked backwards with you and found that the legs were the square root of 2 over 2, and both the legs are the same. So let's draw that one in. So if you can imagine, from here to here is 45 degrees. So we're going to put that on the outside of that. And this coordinate is, in a sense, describing from the origin, how would you get to this point? Well, you would walk over the length of this leg and you would walk up the length of this leg. Well, we found the lengths of those legs to both be the square root of 2 over 2. That's where those coordinates are coming from. Okay, and then the last one, it is, in a sense, it's this triangle right here. It's still a 30, 60, 90, but it's propped up on its short leg. So the half is here, and then the square root of 3 over 2 is here. So that's still the same triangle. Use yellow. Okay, so now if we're just looking at that yellow triangle from here to here, that's 60 degrees. And if you don't want to write those down here, that's okay. I'm just trying to help you visualize. And if I describe how to get to this point, right, starting at the origin, I would walk over this leg, which is a half, and then I'd walk up this leg, which is the square root of 3 over 2. So if you notice, this one and this one are just reversed because this green and this yellow triangle are the same. The yellow one's just propped up on that short leg. Okay, so now you're saying, well, what's so great about this? The reason this is so great is when you were working or looking at Miss Eisencraft's video, you talked about the sine and the cosine. So it turns out the sine, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Well, the hypotenuse is 1. So the sine ends up being this. And the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Since the hypotenuse is 1, the cosine ends up being the x coordinate, and the sign ends up being the y-coordinate. Okay, let's go look at that in the unit circle again. That's just that triangle placed in the unit circle. So it turns out that this coordinate ends up being the cosine of 30, and this ends up being the sine of 30. So that's why these coordinates are so helpful. So it's cosine, comma, sine. And I don't want to draw on this too much. I mean, you can, but the cosine is the x coordinate. I guess we could put that. And the sine is the y coordinate. And if you watch Miss Eisencraft's videos, that should make sense. Okay, because if you just real quick, 30 degrees. The sine is the opposite, which is this leg right here, over the hypotenuse, which is 1, and this leg is a half. So the sine just ends up being the y coordinate. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so it ends up just being, okay? So now if somebody asked you, what is the cosine of 60? You could go to 60 degrees, boom, 1/2. Okay, that's how these are used, and that's how the unit circle is used. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to fill out the rest of the unit circle, because as you might imagine, if you've been making these unit circles with the degrees and radians going around, if I continue this pattern all the way around, I'm going to see these 3 triangles over here, quadrant 2, down here in quadrant 3, and over here in quadrant 4. And the only thing that's going to change is whether or not these coordinates are positive or negative. So join me for the next video so I can help you fill out the rest of the unit circle.